Will Joann executives face real accountability for what happened to the company? I'm not holding my breath. Welcome to Sewing Report Live. I'm Jen. I do news and commentary within the sewing and crafts realm, and I've seen a lot of comments just from the previous coverage about the Joann bankruptcy and downfall on the corporate executives. Will they face any accountability? I've seen people say they should go to jail. They are being personally sued right now. And I want to talk a little bit more about this. Disclaimer, this video is going to be mostly my opinion. Also, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal analysis, so just keep that in mind. These videos are also unscripted, and this one's not really going to be edited. This is just sort of a chatty video. So if that's not your thing, I get it, but this channel's probably not for you. So we've been covering this for quite some time on how culpable are the former Joann executives in what happened to this long-standing, iconic sewing, crafts, and fabric retailer that's been around for decades and decades, and now it is gone. The executives, now keep in mind, Joann's was purchased by a private equity group some time ago. I'm probably going to do another video just on my thoughts on private equity and all of that, but this video is going to be about the Joann executives who are now being sued on an individual level by several of the former vendors, claiming that they were misled on the company's financial picture, deceived into thinking it was better than it was, in order to get them to continue to give Joann's favorable credit terms and continue to ship inventory to Joann's without getting paid beforehand. And these vendors are saying, hey, you left us holding the bag. We're out millions and millions of dollars. I believe they stated their losses were over $40 million. And what's going to happen to these executives that these vendors feel are a lot responsible for what happened? So we're going to take a look at where some of these folks are now, including, so from the lawsuit, I looked through the entire lawsuit, and the main character that kept popping up over and over again in all of the anecdotes and claims from these vendors is former chief merchandising officer Rob Will. So Rob Will has already floated off to a new, and I would say better job. And again, we covered this before, but if you're new, Rob is now the CEO of SVP Worldwide, which is the parent company of the Singer sewing machines, Foth, and Husqvarna Viking. And I had discovered this when I was looking through the lawsuit because Rob Will's contact information was SVP Worldwide. And I was like, oh, did he get another job? And it turned out he did. So this press release was put out in June. It did confirm that Rob Will is now the CEO of SVP Worldwide. So Rob, the guy that the vendors are really putting a lot of the responsibility on in their lawsuit, Rob is now the CEO. And also just keep in mind, SVP Worldwide, not surprisingly, also owned by a private equity group. What do you know? What do you know? And just some insider baseball here. When I was looking into Rob Will, I had reached out to SVP Worldwide to confirm this because I wasn't seeing any, it was on his alleged LinkedIn page, but LinkedIn pages could be, faked. So I didn't want to just rely on a LinkedIn page to confirm that. I wanted to get direct confirmation from SVP Worldwide somewhere, whether it be on their website, social media posts, or hearing from them directly. So I had emailed their media contact to confirm that Rob was indeed the CEO of SVP Worldwide. I had a lot of dots, but I really wanted to get them connected in an official capacity. So I'd emailed them, I would say at least a week before I put out the video talking about Rob Will, and they just didn't respond. But me reaching out to them via email definitely gave them a heads up that I was working on that angle. And I did find it really coincidental that, all right, let's take a look at this. SVP Worldwide, notice their news page, so this is where they put out their press releases. The last press release they put out was in October of 2023. No press releases in 2024, like the entire year at all. And they put out the press release that confirmed that Rob Will was the CEO literally the same day, June 24th, that I put out the video basically talking about Rob Will being the CEO of SVP Worldwide. So I do find the timing really, really coincidental to me. And they have not put out a press release since. So I did find that a little suspicious. It was officially to announce that they had officially taken over the Ditto pattern projector. That had been like a joint project with Joann and Singer. But I did find it just very interesting that they chose the same day that I put out a video basically telling everyone that Rob Will had gone to SVP Worldwide, that they chose to confirm that. So they had confirmed, like, yeah, Rob Will, SVP, CEO of SVP Worldwide. And before that, they had not put out any confirmation. Like, there were no press releases. There was no acknowledgement of him joining the company other than the LinkedIn page. But again, just from a journalistic standpoint, I didn't feel comfortable relying just on a LinkedIn page. I wanted to get confirmation from the company. I just found it very, very, very coincidental that, and they, again, SVP Worldwide knew I was working on this because I reached out to get confirmation via their media contact. They did not get back to me, but I did find it a little like maybe passive aggressive that they chose to go this route. So Rob Will, the guy that is pretty much the main character in the vendor's lawsuit, is now the CEO of the largest, some of the largest sewing machine brands in the world. So that's where he went. He's not in jail. He's roaming about. I'm sure he got paid very well from Joann's, and then he just floated to a better job. Now, there's also the guys that were Joann's interim CEO and CFO, Michael Prendergast and Jeff Dwyer. They came from the global consulting group Alvarez and Marshall, and they're just back at their old haunts. So they came in, they did what they needed to do at Joann's to get through the liquidation and the closure, and I'm sure they've just moved on to something else. So Michael Prendergast, he and Jeff were only with Joann for a short time. So Michael Prendergast, I'm sure he's doing his thing back at Alvarez and Marshall. Same with Jeff Dwyer, also with Alvarez and Marshall, probably just moving on to their next project. So I know a lot of you are like, hey, these guys should be held accountable. These people should be in jail. I'm just going to say it now. I don't really see that happening at all. So I'm gonna get into what I think will and again, I'm not a lawyer, but just from what we've seen with all of these corporate guys, it seems like they just tend to get away with this. They really do. Like, you've seen this with other businesses, other CEOs, other executives. Wade Miquelon, Joann's former CEO, he had been part of a big scandal with Walgreens involving Elizabeth Holmes with Theranos. He was duped by her. She was the woman who had that she claimed to have a test, like a one drop of blood could test for all of these different things, and it turned out that was just a total hoax. It was not real, and she had duped a lot of very high profile people into thinking this was legit. It was not. Wade Miquelon had partnered with her on a Walgreens deal, and he was duped by her, and then he later went on to get a job with Joann's during a time that I would say arguably was sort of the beginning of the end for Joann's. Wade, I think he retired, so he got his golden parachute and he sailed off into the sunset. And I do want to emphasize, so they currently, several of the former executives, including Rob Will, Jeffrey Dwyer, and Michael Prendergast, along with some of the other cast of characters from Joann's, they are being sued in an Ohio court from several of the vendors. We've gone over this before, but I was looking into this, and it looks like, so there's a few things that could happen. So right now, the attorneys for the former executives are trying to shield themselves from personal or individual liability using bankruptcy laws, basically saying, hey, these vendors' claims should really be part of the bankruptcy case and not a separate case, even though the lawyer for the plaintiffs or the former vendors are saying, hey, this should be considered separate from the bankruptcy because we are bringing this under state laws. So they're bringing it under it was like fraudulent misrepresentation and then like fraudulent negligence, something like that. So their attorneys the attorneys for the plaintiffs or the vendors are trying to keep this separate from the bankruptcy case so that they, have a better chance at getting something out of this because they're out over $40 million. So we'll have to see. I'm monitoring what happens with the bankruptcy case to see whether or not these executives are able to use bankruptcy laws to shield them from any personal liability. But even if the Ohio lawsuit does go ahead, I don't really think this is going to end up hitting these people very hard. So it does look like they likely had something called directors and officers or D&O insurance. So this is pretty common for corporate executives in the C-suite to have. So it's an insurance policy that protects them against lawsuits and litigation, which this would be. And they probably have this with Joann's, and then this would be covered under that insurance policy. So their legal costs, and even if they have to, like if this doesn't go to trial and they end up settling, this insurance policy could cover all of the damages and legal fees. So the executives may not have to pay really anything out of their own pocket. So it does look like this is very standard. Again, I've never been an executive, but I was looking into this. So, that's probably what's going to happen. So I know a lot of us feel what they did was unethical, potentially illegal, and that they should pay for what happened. I'm just saying I don't really see that happening. I just think they're going to end up skipping off into the sunset. That's my own opinion, just from what I'm seeing. So the policies typically cover protects executives personally when the company cannot indemnify them, i.e. in bankruptcy, reimburses the company, and also covers the company itself for certain claims, especially when for public companies facing securities litigation. So it is pretty common because executives can be personally sued for decisions made in their roles, risking personal assets without insurance. And also, these companies will use the D&O insurance to attract talent because they know they will be protected from any litigation, and it provides another layer of security for them. So I just say policies may exclude coverage for fraud, intentional misconduct, or criminal acts. Premiums have also risen in recent years due to increased litigation. So, their insurance policy may cover it, may not, but I'm going to guess they probably did have this type of insurance in their roles at Joann's, especially the guys from Alvarez and Marshall, because they probably deal with this sort of thing, commonly being in the business consulting arena. So I know a lot of you are very upset about the actions of the former Joann executives, but, I hate to say it, but they're probably nothing's going to happen to them. Like, this is my opinion, speculation. I don't know what's going to happen with the lawsuit. That's why I'm continuing to monitor what happens with the Ohio suit and also with the Delaware bankruptcy case that is still going on. But just wanted to chat about this real quick because I know I've been seeing a lot of comments, but they're not going to jail or anything like that. So this is not criminal. The lawsuit is civil. And it seems pretty rare for executives to go to prison or be prosecuted criminally for actions, that they took in the course of their job. Like it's fairly rare. It seems fairly rare. So that's just my opinion, but I just wanted to update y'all. What do you think? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'm going to continue to monitor this situation. We've got lots of different lawsuits. We've got 2 bankruptcy cases, and I'll also keep you updated on anything else that I deem is important to know about in the world of sewing and crafts. I'm Jen with Sewing Report Live, and I'll see you again in the next one.